What's up, guys? In this podcast, I interview Santina Rizzi. She is the TikTok famous social media manager for Dr. Miami, who is well known for her viral videos. What struck me about our conversation was that she leans into the art side of social media. She lives it, she breathes it, she is the audience, and she's chronically online. I think too often we get caught up in the numbers. Santina doesn't rely on trend reports or audience demographics to create content that she knows will work. And that's an important reminder for marketers. Yes, the numbers are important. Yes, you need a strategy, but you have to lean into the artistic side of social media. That's where truly viral content happens. I hope you enjoy our conversation.
Hello, Jess. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a cool conversation. You know, we were talking a little bit earlier that for part of this social media series that we're doing, we are talking to a wide variety of people. And earlier today, I talked to a social media manager for a brand. You're going to provide a really interesting perspective, I think, because you are a social media manager for an influencer.
Yes.
So, or a personality, a celebrity, right? And so that's a totally different angle. And I think that it is something that our brand and agency partners can learn a tremendous amount from. And you've gained a lot of popularity just from a lot of tactics that you use on his social channel. So we're going to get into all of that today and more. But first, I just want to say, give us the tea on why you got into social media management. Like, how did you end up with this role? It's such a unique and interesting one.
Yeah, so it was super unexpected. I went to college and I studied political science and religion, thinking that I was gonna become a lawyer. Yeah, very, very not like TikTok antics. So
Sure.
I came back. So I went to Florida State, which is in Tallahassee, and then I came back to Miami, which is where I'm from, during the pandemic because like everything shut down, and like I prefer to be in Miami than Tallahassee if I'm gonna be stuck in my house. So.
Yes.
During that time, I was like wrapping up college and I was studying for the LSAT, and I was like nose to the books. And at the time, I wanted to get like real life experience in the legal world as well. So I applied to work at this law firm, and at first I was gonna be like the girl who answers their phones, just to have like a foot in the door.
Sure.
And then within like the first week that I was there, they were like, oh no, she can do more. So they moved me to legal, and I became like a legal assistant and then later a paralegal. Okay. And while I was working there, I was seeing like the day-to-day life of someone in the legal field and someone in kind of the legal field that I would want to go into. Like I knew that, you know, I have like immigrant parents. So to be like a lawyer, it was, you know, there's a bottom line and it's to make a lot of money. So I was going to go corporate, like I was probably going to work, you know, in that same vein, and it was miserable. So simultaneously, and even before that, I had a TikTok account because in 2019, like December, my best friend, like since we were children, was like, oh my God, my cousin Kami, like her younger cousin's using like this app, it's called TikTok. And I'm like, but isn't that Musical.ly? And she's like, yes, but now it's cool. She's like, it's not the same. Like, and I'm like, okay, show it to me. So she showed it to me, and I was like, what? Like, the interface of it was so different from any other app. And I felt like my mom. Like, I was like I didn't know what buttons to click. Like, I just felt so removed. So kind of as a way to prevent myself from being out of touch, I downloaded TikTok, and I was like, and my friends would make fun of me. My friends in college were like, bro, that's Musical.ly. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, it's actually funny. But at the time, it was like really like, it wasn't that big yet. Like Charlie D'Amelio wasn't even big yet. Like there was no hype. There was none of that. But it was actually like niche funny because the algorithm was super specific to your interest. And now it's even more specific. But so through that, I started like I fell into this like fashion niche, right? I really enjoy clothes. My mom my mom has always worked in beauty. So I started making these videos on my own, like doing my hair, getting dressed. I would recreate like these Pinterest outfits. And in October of 2020, it was like weeks of me making like videos, just like recreating viral Pinterest outfits. And then I found like this kind of common theme among all of them. And it was that all the outfits were worn by like skinny white women. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yep.
is this really a fit or is she just skinny? So I facetiously put out a video saying that, and it went viral. And then it got taken down for bullying, or for bullying
Oh.
harassment, my first one. And
Okay.
then I was like, okay, whatever. I'll make another one. So I made another one about Kendall Jenner, and that one blew up. It had like,
Oh, interesting.
yeah. So the first one
In the
did,
same like skinnier fit like vein, in that same vein, this
yes,
video
literally. So
was? Okay.
the my first video was just like looking at two Pinterest outfits, being like, are these really fits? Or are they just skinny? And then everyone
Sure.
was like, oh my god, do this about Kendall Jenner. Like she's like the, you know,
Yes.
the
Yep.
epitome of that. So I made a second video, and that one took off. And I remember I was going to California to go see my
Mm-hmm.
friend, the one I told you that I've been friends with
Yeah.
since we were children. I was gonna go see her, and on the plane ride from Miami to California, I got on the plane with 10,000 followers, and when I got off the plane, I had 250,000 followers.
Oh my gosh.
I was in shock. And I was like, what the fuck? So I started like busting out the is it a fit or she just skinny videos. Like people were
Mm-hmm.
recommending obviously celebrities, other like very
Yeah.
viral photos that I should recreate. So I did around like 8 of those. And then it kind of just like fell off.
Sure.
I had like the super niche like whatever, and then it just fell off. So that was in 2020, end of 2020, beginning of
Okay.
2021. And then during that time I was again studying for the LSAT, doing all that, so I kind of let TikTok die. But when I got to the law firm, I was like depressed. I was like, I can't, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming here Monday through Friday. They sell you this dream of like 9 to 5, but it's really like
Oh no, no, no.
7:30 to 8. Like it's not, it's never like 9 to 5. So I was like, well, I used to, get some serotonin boost from TikTok. I'm gonna start doing that
Sure.
again. So, and also my coworkers at the law firm, like some of the interns that are there in the summer, they're
Mm-hmm.
younger. They would be like,
Yeah.
dude, you have like 200 and something thousand followers. Like you can do something with that. Like you just need to be consistent. So every morning I would get up and put together an outfit to go to my corporate job. And it like fascinated people because I was 21 years old and wearing like crop tops to a corporate
Yeah.
law firm in Miami.
Yep.
So then that became a thing. And so from there I grew, I think like another, I had lost followers from 250. So I think I was down to 230 because I was like
Mm-hmm.
inactive. And then
Yep.
throughout the year and some change I was there, I gained like, I think 320 something. I got to 320 something. So I gained another
Wow.
100,000 followers just by being consistent. Um, so at the point where I was like, I don't want to work at this law firm anymore. I don't even want to go into the legal field. Like
Right.
what other like skill sets do I have? And I was like,
Sure.
I have social media. That's other than
Yeah.
that, I worked at a juice bar. and a clothing store, which I was fired from. So I'm like, this is like, I have very scant options right now. So I
Sure.
started writing. I actually, the first job I applied to was
Uh-huh.
BuzzFeed, and I got a call back,
Oh.
and I
Okay.
went through like an interview process, and in the last round they cut me, and I was like
Mm.
devastated. So I was like, maybe I should go to law school, like da 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 da.
Yeah,
A
you're doubting
couple,
yourself. Sure.
yeah, like 2 months went by. My friends are like, bro, you can do it. Like, they're like, you don't have any formal experience, but like, you have really good informal experience. Just like, write a cover
Yeah.
letter. So I wrote a cover letter, and I just started sending out my resume with the cover letter. And so, like, coincidentally, Dr. Miami was hiring, and not just for a social media manager, but for a social media personality. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it wasn't someone to just like manage his account, but it was someone
Uh-huh.
to like for him to play off of. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you remember his Snapchat, like in 2013, 2014,
Uh,
2015, he had Britney,
yes.
and they had like a
They had a
tit
nice
for
thing
tat,
going. Mm-hmm.
yeah, relationship. And like a lot of the what like entice people too were like the people who worked in the office. Like every morning he'd be like, Ta, what do we have today? Like, like you knew all the characters. So they wanted
Mm-hmm.
someone to like bring that back and then also bring like an energy. So it fit perfect with like what I was trying to do and the
Yeah.
experience I had, because I didn't necessarily need to know about SEOs and
Right.
like like all
Yes,
those
totally.
technical things. I
Totally.
just needed to be someone who was successful on social media. And so I applied. They called me back like in the same hour. I was literally in shock too, because I grew up in Miami
Wow.
and he was like a god to
Yeah.
me. I was like,
Ah,
what?
okay. So you knew who he was. Yeah.
No, of course. Like I was in middle school, like watching his stuff at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. So I'm like, I can't believe it. They're like, can you come in tomorrow? And I'm like, yes. I literally called the law firm. I'm like, I'm sick. I can't come in tomorrow. And
Amazing.
I, I skipped work. I think it was a Wednesday. It was actually, oh, I was gonna say it was a year ago today, but no, a year ago today is
Oh.
when my first day of work. Today's my 1 year anniversary working here.
Ah, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, so yeah, I
Wow. That, I
came
mean,
in.
that's quite a journey, right?
It
Wow.
was
I mean, and
crazy.
the fact though, to me, what's really telling about that story is he wasn't just hiring a social media manager. I mean, that's a huge role in and of itself. But he's also casting for his social media show effectively. I mean, to have that level of insight, and maybe foresight's actually a better word in terms of like what's working and what's not working, is really incredible, right? That's he seems to be a marketing machine in and of himself.
He is like, no, he's like a marketing genius. Also because he's like one of the first people to really be. He's like one of the first, not just people, but like brands, like like
Mm-hmm.
business fronts to like put
Yes.
themselves out on social media in a way that isn't like cookie cutter, pre-planned,
Mm,
like
yeah.
he was doing this stuff in like 2013, 2014. Like doctors were like shunning him. They were like, "Why are you doing that?
Sure.
That's so unprofessional." Like, it wasn't super popular to be a professional on social media.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. But and that kind of fast forward to today, which is something I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, is a big trend that we're seeing for brands is they're taking these social media managers and they are making them the main characters in their social feeds, right? And that's something it seems like you guys have been ahead of already. And even though Dr. Miami is the main character, he needs like a counterweight to that, right? Protagonist, antagonist. You guys need some banter. And so the fact that he called that out in the job post is pretty incredible. But you guys don't just, it's not just the two of you. You also kind of circulate through some of his family members, some of his office staff. It's
Yeah.
like you're creating a reality TV show.
Right. Because, I mean, it's similar to what he did with Snapchat. So I think their thinking was like, people like to feel like, connected. They like to see what's going on in the
Mm-hmm.
office, whatever. And because of COVID, they shut down, and he was like more worried about like the practice itself and not really maintaining his social media presence. So the goal is
Sure.
like twofold. Like number one, to get someone whose like entire job it is to make you consistent. And
Mm-hmm.
then number two, to bring back like that dynamic which people liked. Because like his patients are people who want a doctor that are like, that's funny, that's relatable, that is human. Like the way he puts it is
Yeah.
that like when you're gonna go get plastic surgery, you've already been thinking about, there's something about you that you're insecure about, and it's not like a
Mm-hmm.
one-off decision. Like you've been thinking about it. It's like a moment of vulnerability. And so some people like to go to a surgeon, like white coat, like stethoscope, like very like, show me
Mm-hmm.
the breast, like very
Yep.
to the point. And other people like to sit in front of a human and like feel like they're having this, you know,
Yeah.
vulnerable moment. And so his Snapchat like gave people kind of an insight into not just his
Mm.
practice, but like his personality, like the type of personality you want
It's
in a
like
doctor. So
bedside manner, effectively, right?
yeah.
That's a big thing in that
So
space. Well, plus with plastic surgery, you also there is a trend element to it, right? Not that plastic surgery is trendy, but like what you're going for is very of the time, right? And so to have a doctor who sort of leans into trends and things and understands maybe what's popular and what's not,
mhm.
and then can use his skill sets to apply that to your canvas, your body. I think to me that would give me a lot of good comfort, right?
Yeah. He's also like,
Interesting, huh?
the fact that he's popular
Uh-huh.
is good for patients because you know that he's not just taking anyone's business. Like, he's not gonna accept you because he needs the business. Like, he doesn't need it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And that's
Mm-hmm.
rare in Miami because Miami's like a
Sure.
plastic surgery hub, and there's a lot of, shady shit going on, like a lot of
Sure.
corners cut because there's so much competition. But the fact that he is Dr. Miami eliminates that. So he's not going to overlook a medical condition that he thinks might be shady. He's not going to, like, he has like an age cutoff. Like, you have to be 18 to 50. Most plastic surgeons here will operate up until like 60 something. So he's
Mm.
very, like, people are like, I don't want a plastic surgeon who's on social media. But the benefit of that is that he's like, this is, you want someone in demand. It's like going to a sushi place.
Right.
Like, you want some
Sure.
place that's popping because you know the fish is fresh. Like, you don't want to
Fresh.
go
Yeah.
somewhere where it's just sitting there all day. You're gonna go home and shit yourself. You want someone who,
Right.
like, okay, you didn't make your appointment, leave. We don't need you. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I can see that. That's interesting because I kind of have wondered like why it is that he is even on social media, right? Because you're right, he doesn't need the business. He's a successful guy. Like, what is it? Like, does he get new? Does he? And I was going to talk about this later, but we'll talk about it now because we're there. But like, does he get new patients? And does he essentially make able to monetize his social media for his practice?
Well, I mean, we don't have we don't track it in any way, but
Okay.
it's like they've said throughout the years, like, when he is more active on social media,
That he gets
100% they
more.
get more leads. Do they
Yeah. Well,
know?
I saw you guys have on TikTok the like book a consult, right? A free consult.
Yeah. So for sure they get more leads. We don't know if, like, the leads lead to more surgeries, but, like,
Sure.
the patients are more excited. They, like, we
Mm-hmm.
have like an aftercare program where, like, the doctor goes and visits
Okay.
them post-op or whatever, and I go there, and, like, the patients, they want to make TikToks. I mean, like, they're there for a week, like, sitting in bed, like,
Yeah.
like, it kind of also boosts, like, patient morale. So while it might not
That's
be,
interesting.
yeah, while it might not be, like, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's rarely a straight line to it, but I was just curious if he thought that this was like a big reason why he did it, or if he did it for other reasons. And it sounds like it's a little bit of both, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it probably generates buzz and business and all that sort of stuff, but also it's entertainment, it's fun, helps patient
He loves
morale.
being on social media. Like,
Right, exactly. That's what I was thinking. He seems like the guy that wants to be on social media, be out there, and be a public face, right?
he loves, like, he doesn't go anywhere, like, not in his scrubs because he's just like a regular white man and they might not recognize him. Like, he likes being Dr. Miami. Like, he likes, like, you could see, like, if we go to the airport or we go somewhere and people are like, Dr.
Yeah.
Miami, he's like, yeah, it's me. Like, he loves that shit. So I think he loves, like, checking the Twitter. I guess during
Yeah.
that time where he, like, kind of was not on social media, Twitter wasn't
Uh-huh.
talking about him. So he would, like, look up his name on Twitter, and there would be, like, the most recent tweet was, like, from 2 weeks ago, and he'd be like, oh. And now people are tweeting about him, like, every 30 seconds. And he's like, I love
Really?
it. Like, my name is out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And then
that's interesting,
obviously,
right? Go ahead.
well, in the past, he had, like, so it might not lead to, like, direct patient business sales, but it leads to other opportunities. Like, magazines cover him. Maybe someone
Mm-hmm.
sees him in a magazine. Um, like, he just opened a practice in Saudi or somewhere else because of his
I
social
thought,
media.
yeah, I saw he was headed to Dubai,
Yeah.
like in
Well,
a bit
Dubai,
too,
he,
right?
like, works with the practice there, but he just opened his own, like,
Okay.
Dr. Miami practice in the Middle East, and, like, that's
Wow.
because of social media. Like, Snapchat, a lot of his followers are from the Middle East, and plastic surgery there is super expensive, so a lot of them, like, fly in, but now he's opening one over there, and
Wow.
yeah, it might not lead to, like, oh, this TikTok led to 5 people
It
booking.
sounds like it's not a direct like, okay, we post this many videos, we get this many surgeries.
Right.
It sounds like it's just opening up other doors and possibilities for him,
Yeah.
that he would not otherwise be privy to. So that's super cool. That's very interesting. Well, and a question for you too around like how you guys think about this show, or I'm going to call it a show because I really feel like you guys are just basically creating a show. How do you think about characters? Yeah, exactly. Well, how do you think about characters? Like, do you intentionally try to bring in new faces and like test them out to see if the audience likes this new character?
So a lot of the characters are have been introduced on like on a need base. So for example, the doctor
Okay.
was gone like for 3 weeks or something, and
Yes.
the only representatives of him were his children. And I'm like, they'll do. Like, we'll see. We'll see if they work. And at the time, like the whole, I don't remember what was it, Vice or what publication made that nepo baby chart.
Oh, yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
The,
100%. Yeah.
the nepo baby article that went viral, and so everyone was making videos like, did you know that like, uh, oh my god, I'm blanking right now. Like
Yeah, but
Antonio
they're whole
Banderas,
they're
his stepdaughter is Dakota Johnson, like all these like random
right.
Nepo baby connections. So I'm like, Dr. Miami has a lot of kids. He's kind of famous. His sons might be Nepo babies. Let's try them. Plus he's gone. And so that's how that happened. And then once we put them in, people were like, oh my god, like this one's so cute, or this one's so funny, this one's just like the doctor. And we're like, okay, now we have like a solution sometimes when he's gone to just
Yeah,
put the Nepo
totally.
babies there.
Totally. Well, and I love how you brought something that was trending in like, culture and news and then brought that in. And that sort of, you're able to capitalize on that trend and solve a problem at the same time, which is really, it's smart marketing, right?
Yes.
That's so cool. And it's interesting to think about how, like, so it sounds like you're defining success on this where like based on audiences comments and reactions to the introduction of the kids.
Yes.
And so
Like,
will that play into your strategy in the future outside of when Dr. Miami is gone? Like, do you plan on incorporating the kids more in the future on general content?
yeah. I mean, another thing is like one of the Nepo babies is opening, like you saw, Keeney.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like that's
He's
good.
starting his own business. Mm-hmm.
That's like a good strategy just for him to be like known and his business be introduced. So yeah, I mean, we definitely, if they're around, also right now they're like in camp, they're far, whatever, but when they're around,
Yeah,
we like to
true.
put them in the content just to keep like, their faces like fresh in people's memories. And then always to have that kind of like as a thing we can play off of later.
As an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. I feel like that's always the case when you're incorporating like family members. It's like, where are they? Especially kids.
Yeah.
They're very, they're hard to corral, I think, a lot of times. But when you can get them in, I think it just provides like another sort of peek behind the curtain into who Dr. Miami is, right? Which I'm sure is content that his audience constantly craves.
Yeah. And in terms of like strategy, when I came in, like his Snapchat strategy was very different from what we're doing on TikTok because number one, like there was no guidelines. Like in 2013, 2016, like you could post full like surgery. You could even live stream it and like not be ticked on views, like not have it taken down. Like, it was very like a free for all. So people actually, that was probably better for him in terms of like direct views to patients because it was showing the actual like product of his business, like this is what she looked like before, this is what she looked like after, and it was 3 a day, like every single day. So that's like, but in 2021 or oh my god, 2022, wow, time is moving. So in 2022 you can't do that. So when I came in, I was like, we're not posting nudity, we're not posting surgery on TikTok because number one, TikTok, like yes, there's like a sector of TikTok that wants to learn, but TikTok like really they want like characters. Like I was like, Dr. Miami's already
entertainment.
He's already a name that's like in a million rap songs. People reference him in movies, like and even if you don't know who he is, just the name Dr. Miami sounds like enticing. Like let's make him into an influencer, like let's Dr. Miami influencer. So that's another reason why we want to incorporate his family, because any influencer would incorporate their friends, their family, their lifestyle, whatever. So that's another.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes sense. And I know, and one of the ways you do that, I think well, first of all, his community and his audience, they love you, right? I think that you've built a really interesting rapport with them. So talk to me a little bit about how that came about.
So that actually was not my idea. When I came in, I just wanted to like
Okay.
focus on, making like basically making influencer content, almost like the content I
Yep.
was making for myself, but have him make it for him. Um, and then they wanted like a social media personality. Like they wanted someone for him to like play off of. So I would still Snapchat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, put yourself in the video. And so we just started referring to me as like my social media manager, right? Because who the fuck,
Right.
like at that point I had 380,000 followers. Like it was a very niche population that knew about me.
Sure.
So it was more just like, oh, that's Dr. Miami's social media girl, whatever. So funny. And I honestly like, I can't think of a brand or a business that did that before us.
Yeah.
I want to say that we're the first on TikTok to like have the social media girl or whatever
have a face, right?
Yeah, not just have a face, but like have this kind of like antagonistic personality, like the boom, we need to get out the content, kind of like lift the veil of what goes into making a TikTok. I don't think that was happening before us.
Okay, so you guys were very behind the scenes focused.
Yeah, so then people would be like, at first, there was a little resistance. We were like, this is becoming too much about like the her and you, like this is Dr. Miami's page. And I was like inclined to agree with them, and I would say like,
sure,
guys, I don't want to be in the video, da da da. And they're like, who the fuck cares? Like people love you, like just be in the video. It's funny, like da da da. So it was really like Dr. Miami and Rosie, who's his practice manager, but she also was like the head of our social media team. They were like, bro, they loved Brittany. They're gonna love you. You just need to give them time, like whatever.
Give them time, yeah.
So, and it's true, because now we don't even. Sometimes we don't use. So, like it's rare that we use my social media girl. It's usually my first name, like Santina, and people know like what I'm doing there, like what my role is.
Yes, totally. And they mention you in the comments too, right?
Yeah,
which is really kind of interesting. And you comment back, which is also interesting. But you do it from the Dr. Miami account, and then you sign it Santina.
Yeah.
Right? So why is it that you do it that way instead of replying from your personal account?
I think it's just more convenient because I'm usually interacting within the first like 30 minutes of me posting a video. I'm like responding to comments, liking, whatever, like seeing how the video is doing. So I'm usually on his account, and so I'm responding as him. And then I see a comment directed to me, so I'm like dash Santina. And it's funny because like the comments will see, like sometimes I comment as him and people are like, we know it's you, Santina, like. So I guess there's sometimes I do comment from my account. It's just more logistic. Like I don't want to have two phones out at one time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Switching back and forth. So.
Yeah, I could see that totally. But so interesting. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it probably would be smarter if I commented from my account, because then they would go look at my account. But.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was thinking. But also, if you're really like. If you're building, it depends on how you're building your own personal brand, right? If you're keeping it kind of like what you do on TikTok versus what you do for Dr. Miami, right? Because those are two different, it's not that they're two different people. You're your authentic self on both, but you have a different goal in mind with each account, right?
Yeah, and also, I don't know if you know this, but I actually manage a second account.
Yes, you do. That's right.
Bellows Film Lab. And so I think one time, this is just to speak to why maybe I should be commenting from my own account. I made a video when I started working for Bellows from Dr. Miami's page, and it was like a subtle plug to Bellows, being like, oh, when Santina, it was like this Friends audio that was like, are you cheating on me, or da-da-da-da, and it's like when Santina gets a second client, whatever, and I commented from the Bellows Film Lab, and it was like the top comment, and I think he got like 10,000 followers. Like their film lab got like 10,000 followers from that comment, because people are like, oh, she's managing that account now, let's go follow that
and then
account.
They want to go over and they want to follow and see what you're doing over there. Interesting. Okay, well, I want to dive into like those differences in a minute here, but before we do that, I think one of the things that you're really well known from what I can tell on TikTok, is your use of trending sounds and taking them and applying them to plastic surgery, which seems to me like almost an impossible feat. But you do it seamlessly, and people love it. I mean, I see in the comments all the time that people are just, I mean, they're laughing hysterically. They're like, where is she finding this stuff? How does she do it? So tell us a little bit about like your secret sauce. Like, how do you find the sounds? How do you have what's your creative process like in terms of like figuring out how to make this work for Dr. Miami?
So the short answer is that I'm just like chronically online. Like I'm always on TikTok. So I really just see these sounds from my For You page because it's just so ultra specific. I'll say there are like three kinds of voices, like three specific people's voices that do really well, like Drewski audios. They're always coming out and they're hilarious. Tokyo Tony, Black China's mom.
Okay. Yep.
Every audio that comes out about like from her or from Drewski are usually like very out of pocket, but not super specific. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
They're never saying anything specific. It's almost just being like, for example, Drewski's like, not too much, not too much. And so it's like something that you could really apply to anything. It's very broad. And the Tokyo Tony one as well. And then I'm trying to think of a third person. I don't know. I think those two are one of our, like, those are really bread and butter. But, like, we first realized it with Drewski. We're like, oh, my God. Like, every sound that comes out from this guy is too good because it's super broad, but it's really funny. Yeah. And there's always, like, new sounds coming out from him. And then Tokyo Tony.
So it's a good flow and very broad. That's interesting because, I mean... And then how do you think about, how do you take that sound? You say, okay, great. Drewski comes out with a new sound. You're like, this is a great sound. Then what's your method for sitting down and like sketching a skit effectively for how that's going to apply to a plastic surgery practice?
Okay, so this is going to I'm selling myself out. But basically, there are certain tropes. That's the main thing, like when I start managing an account, is to find like the tropes in that niche, right? And then basically just go through them and like, just mix them. So like we use this trope this month, we won't use it for another 3 months. So there's like a couple. There's obviously the trope of there's just a bunch. If you look at our account, we like reuse them. So the old man paying for her surgery. There's the wife getting a procedure that her husband didn't approve of. There's the Dr. Miami bullying the man into paying. There's the me bullying Dr. Miami. There's the Dr. Miami pleading to the audience for help against me. There's and then what I also look for is like what's happening in pop culture in that week.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's like another like when I can think, and so we built also like these storylines. Like we built the Kardashian storyline that he has like this ongoing feud with Kris Jenner, and so anytime there's like anything remote with like the Kardashians or sound, like we can do that. We've built this like love that he has for Bad Bunny. So anytime Bad Bunny is trending, we hop on that. Anytime there's kind of like a male celebrity who's done something stupid, we're gonna shit on them.
Yep.
So there's just like these tropes kind of that we go through, and then also try to incorporate like whatever's happening in pop culture and on the For You page that week.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's almost like you set up these sort of columns for places that you're going to play in, whatever's relevant and trending or whatever new sounds come out. That's what sort of starts the fire, the creative fire, and then you sit down and write them all out. And then does he? And it sounds like he just willingly participates in kind of whatever you're coming up with that week. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. So when I first started, he was more like hesitant because he was like, "Who's this girl? Like, what the fuck does she know?"
Right.
Da, 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 da. But I'll say like my fingers are on the pulse. Like I know, like also because I'm Gen Z. Again, I'm chronically online. Like I'm like on every platform. So I know like There are some plastic surgeons that try to do it, not to be like that, but there are
Yeah.
some plastic surgeons or professionals that try to do it like us, but they cross the line. They're not walking on it or close to it. They're
Mm-hmm.
over it.
Yeah.
And it's like a very, very, like, it's a very fine line. Like, the way you word a POV, like, who you have lip syncing it, like, it's very delicate. Especially because
Yes.
TikTok is a younger, like, audience that dissects, like, they dissect a
Everything.
video.
Yeah.
And so because I'm a part of the audience, like, I understand what they're looking for as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at
Yeah,
first,
I think that is a powerful point, because I have said this to many of brands, many clients, agencies, is that social media managers are very powerful. They are immersed in online culture. They know it, they live it, they breathe it, and you have to listen to them as if they are experts in their field, because they really are.
yeah, and so at first he was like kind of skeptical. He didn't really understand. He would give me ideas and I would like kindly turn them down. I'd be like, that's just not gonna work. And eventually, like, once we had a couple like go really viral, he's like, okay, like, she knows what
Yeah,
she's doing,
sure.
whatever. So now it's kind of like,
And you do, because you get millions of views on videos,
yeah.
millions of views.
So we found like what his audience likes to see and like how we should word things, and like also there are certain like scandals that we just won't, like, they're like anything that puts two women against each other, we're never gonna touch,
Mm-hmm.
because you're gonna isolate like women, like, and that's our
Right.
entire audience. Like, we
Yeah.
don't really have male followers. He doesn't have male patients, so we're like in the women's world. So when the whole Haley Bieber Selena Gomez thing was going on, I was like, pass. And that's like, I think some social media managers like don't get, is like, not every trend, not every situation can be applied to what you're doing. Like,
Sure.
you have to know your audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, know your audience. The audience is all. That's absolutely the case, and I think you're smart to kind of walk that line. It's difficult though. It's easier said than done. So, I mean, kudos to you for you guys figuring that out, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's way easier again if you're chronically online. Like,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the advice I give to, like, I also get DMs from like a million businesses or like, people wanting me to manage their shit, and I obviously can't do it, but I tell them like,
Sure.
get anyone straight out of high school who like has
Mm-hmm.
every social media platform and seems somewhat reasonable, and test them, like, try them out, because I'm sure they're gonna know better than you for sure. Like, if you're
Yeah.
looking for help already, like, this person's gonna know more. It's just finding like a right fit, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think you have to, especially if that person's going to show up in the content, right? If they're going to be a
Yeah.
character in your story, they have to align with your brand, your goals, and your voice, right? It wouldn't make any sense for Dr. Miami to hire a very quiet, proper, yeah, whatever person. He needs someone with like a lot of personality and a lot of brains, right?
Right.
So that works well. That's the combination that you deliver.
Thank you.
So, I mean, is that like why do you think why do people follow Dr. Miami? Like, what is it? What is it about him? Is it the interest in plastic surgery? Is it just the entertaining content? Like, what do you think it is?
I think it differs on each platform, but for TikTok, I want to say it's entirely entertainment. Like, we get
Yeah.
comments all the time. They're like, sometimes I forget he's a plastic surgeon. Like, they don't even, or some people don't even think that he's like actually, like, some people who just stumble across
A
their
real
page
one?
think that he's like a character. Like, they don't think that he's like actually a plastic surgeon. They think he's just
Oh,
like a
interesting.
yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Oh, that's funny.
I think it's like entertainment. I think it's like kind of shocking for like the people who
Okay.
do know that he's a plastic surgeon. They're like, what? He's like fighting with the Kardashians. They follow for like the different storylines that are always going on.
Sure.
Um, I just think it's like a really funny page. It's like a skit page almost.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit it on the head though. It's entertainment, and that is what TikTok and really, I mean, social media has been moving towards entertainment for a while. I think you probably have seen that um, in your online lurking, right? It's just that's where it's going. So, um, I think it's smart that you guys have done that. And now tell me, you also kind of speaking about trends. You guys have just released or launched rather a podcast called Crime and Plastic. So, tell me why you decided to launch a podcast.
So the doctor already had a podcast like years before with this guy Mac, who was a radio host here in Miami.
Okay.
And it was called Love and Plastic. And it actually was doing well when they first launched. It was kind of like during his Snapchat time, so he plugged it, whatever. They had like 25,000 subscribers. Like they were doing well. And it was, people would also, again, this is during the time where there's really no guidelines, content guidelines. So they would have like women come on, show like whatever they want for plastic surgery. So like a tummy tuck or arms or butt, whatever. And then Mac, who on the radio gives love advice, would give like the love advice, and Dr. Miami would give the plastic advice.
Ah, that's funny. Okay.
So this podcast company reached out to us, and they wanted to start a podcast with us, but with like me and him. But and then he already had Love and Plastic, so he was like, "Why don't we just revamp Love and Plastic?" And so on a meeting with like Mac, me, Dr. Miami, Rosie, the podcast people, we were talking about Love and Plastic, but that maybe we can have different like segments to like switch it up. And Rosie was like, "Oh, what about like true crime and plastic surgery? There's like a lot of that. Plus, like we all love true crime."
Yeah, who doesn't?
So and then we were like, "Wait, maybe we'll just do like crime and plastic instead of Love and Plastic." And then I don't know, the podcast company fell off, but we were like, "We love this idea. It's a good idea. Like, we'll run with it." So they built out a podcast room here on the 3rd floor, which is like where the doctor's office is, my office, Rosie.
Sure.
We built out the Crime and Plastic podcast room, and so we're like, we'll just do it ourselves. And so
yeah, I love it.
Just bought all this stuff.
That's cool.
And started recording.
How's it going? Do you feel like, are people coming from TikTok over to the podcast?
For sure, people are definitely coming from TikTok, and a lot of the feedback I get is like we're very like novice, like we're not like true crime. True crime, okay, because I also love true crime, is actually really difficult, and they have a really difficult audience that like they get mad if you pronounce someone's middle name wrong. Like they are hyper detailed, like, and I haven't seen a lot of pushback. Like, and our stories are like, so far, you know, we've researched it ourselves. We're busy people. Some of the stories are not completely like to the T, whatever. And I haven't gotten a lot of pushback. So I would like to think that like probably our audience are not true crime, like exclusively true crime listeners, and they're people coming from TikTok, from my TikTok,
yeah,
from
that would
his
make
TikTok.
sense.
And they say like, I get DMs, I get comments. They're like I listen to the story, but like I really come to listen to like you, Dr. Miami, and Rosie speak.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, that's what podcasts have made that move more towards conversational anyway. Yeah. So it's interesting that you're leaning upon something that is interesting, but you're doing it in your own way.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And do you post a lot of the podcast content on TikTok, like cut downs and stuff?
We haven't, but mostly for technical reasons, like our cameras have not been like recording, or like the audio is bad. Like we're getting a lot of kicks. So we posted a couple. Yeah. We posted like a couple clips from the podcast, but what we have done is done like those kind of skit, like character sounds in the podcast room with like me, Dr. Miami, and Rosie.
Oh, interesting.
And then we'll be like, well, we'll post that like, oh, POV, Dr. Miami won't shut the fuck up while we're trying to tell the story about da-da-da-da-da. And then the caption will be like, podcast is out now. And then on podcast release dates, like I think it's Tuesday, it's Thursdays.
Okay.
We like go on TikTok live and we're like, oh, go listen to the
Sure.
podcast. We recap the story from the last week. Right now we have like a giveaway going on. So at the end of this season, we're gonna have like a TikTok live trivia of the
Oh,
our
interesting.
podcast episodes, and then whoever
Okay.
like wins the trivia is gonna get free surgery. So it's definitely like,
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah,
that's huge. Oh my
yes.
gosh. My final question for you is, at least along Dr. Miami stuff, is like, how do you think about cross posting, right? Like, what's your strategy there? Because it's your Instagram content and your TikTok content are definitely not the same. I mean, there's similarities, and I do see some stuff, but there's different content there for sure. And Instagram's feels a little lighter.
So Instagram, we don't post as much, and we right now have
Yep.
really just been reposting TikToks as reels. Um, but also Instagram, we're just not fans. Like, because
Okay, that's fair.
another thing is like I think Instagram now has moved from like Instagram is now like they want like take a picture while you're taking a shit. Like it's like trying to be
Hmm.
casual. It's kind of like more of an insight into someone's life, which maybe we should be doing. But I don't know. Instagram, just not a fan.
Well, Instagram, I don't think Instagram is as much entertainment focused as TikTok is, and you guys are
It's not.
clearly
It's like
very
an
much in that
influencer
vein.
app.
It is.
It's like
Yeah.
this is like my Sunday dump, and like his Sunday dump is just
Yeah.
like home or in the office doing
Yeah.
consults. So it's like
Totally.
it's a little weird for him. We try to post like before and afters because that's where his social media really started on Instagram. He was like, I think like in 2012 or something like that, posting
Okay.
like gallery photos like before afters of surgery. But of course now
Yeah.
with guidelines and stuff, it's like almost impossible without getting flagged. So we literally have like a graphic designer who like edits
Yeah.
bikinis and stuff like that on top of naked bodies. But
Oh,
even those get
interesting.
flagged.
That's smart.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
those get flagged because we've already violated their guidelines a million times. So we're like on a high red flag list.
Yeah. So you guys got to watch what you're doing. Well, that makes sense. And I don't think every platform is not for every brand or every person. So I actually think it's smart that you guys look at it that way. I don't think you need to be everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Okay, so my final question for you is you mentioned earlier the other brand, the other company that you manage social with.
Yes.
Are you taking a similar approach to what you do with Dr. Miami for them? And how is it going?
So theirs is like, I mean, I think I'm like on month 3 and I'm still working out the
Okay.
bugs with their audience because on the one hand, okay, so the second company business that I manage is Bellows Film Lab. And it's a photography film lab. They
Yep.
develop, they scan photos, they print them out for you, they sell vintage cameras, whatever, all this stuff.
Sure.
So, um, like naturally, people that would watch that content are like a little more snooty. Like they're like
Mm-hmm.
professionals. They're very like they're artistic people. Like shooting on film cameras and getting like nice images is a very like meticulous task, and they're
Yes.
kind of like
Mm-hmm.
you have to know about ISO and um,
Exactly.
like all these kind of it's like a very niche audience, but
Mm-hmm.
his followers are not those people because his
Hmm.
girlfriend is this girl Danny Cleric. She's an interior designer, and she decorated all 3 of his film labs, and she has like this very eclectic style, and
Interesting.
she's really interesting because she does like these series of decorating these businesses, people's houses, and then people will go follow the business. So when she first decorated his like Miami and Chicago locations, half of his followers were from her. And those people are
Hmm.
not really
Right.
film experts. They're kind of like film
Yep.
novices. Like they buy disposables, they buy like automatic point and shoots, whatever. They're kind of just there to see the pretty pictures. And then the
Yeah.
other half of his followers have been gained through me managing his account. So it's like a really weird situation that we're in.
You're in like a rebuild.
Yeah.
You're in rebuild mode, right? Where you're trying to find the audience that he actually needs to talk to
Yeah.
versus the audience that he has.
And it's weird because like he's also like okay, so Bello's Film Lab is owned by this man, Bello. And when I joined or whatever their team, I asked him like, what kind of audience do you want? And he doesn't want the super like he wants film to be accessible to everyone. He wants everyone to start shooting film. Like his dream, his goal, the reason he opened up the business is to keep film photography alive. And you don't do that by just catering to the people that are already in it. So he does want like funny kind of film content, but he also wants like industry specific niche content, which requires me to like really learn. So I'm like still in the learning phase of that. But our posts that are funny, that are like Dr. Miami, Santina-esque, those always do well, like by far, because it's already, that's the type of audience that likes that. Like are the people who came from me, and probably the people who came from Danny Cleric like it too. So when I make like those super like niche specific videos, like they don't do as well. And then he's kind of like discouraged, but I'm like, it's a part of the growing pains. If that's the combination you want. So it's going well. Like there's definitely progress. Good. The account is absolutely doing better than it was before. I just started managing his Instagram like a month ago.
Oh, his personal Instagram. Oh,
no,
wow, interesting.
The Bellows Film Lab Instagram, which is actually, his is nice. Like I like managing that Instagram because it's a photography.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Instagram is the place for that.
Yeah, like we just repost photos that we've developed and scanned. We like we'll post like informational kind of like TikTok reels, and those get pushed on Instagram well. But it's funny because like the same content, that niche content, will do really good on Instagram and not well on TikTok.
Yeah, but that makes sense, right? Because TikTok's about entertainment.
Yeah.
So people aren't necessarily as interested, or like if you're doing educational content, it's got to be like what they call like edutainment, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, you're learning something, but in an entertaining fashion. But I think that, Instagram is a really great spot. And you guys actually should check out like Pete McKinnon. I don't know if he shoots on film or not, but Peter McKinnon, he's like a huge Instagram influencer, like camera dude. So he might be fun for you guys to collab with. I know we've done some stuff with him in the past, but
Peter McKinnon.
That's interesting. Well, I am like, I'm excited to just kind of follow along and see how that journey of transitioning from one audience type to another audience type goes, because that's a heavy lift for a social media manager. It's definitely something that can be done, but you're right, it does take time. And so we'll have to check back in with you to see how it's going in a couple of months. But hey, Santina, it was great to talk to you. I appreciate your time. It was so much fun. And we will all be tuning in to Dr. Miami's TikTok to see how things are going.
Thank you, Jess. This was great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Absolutely. All right.